Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Cross Culture, where we engage culture with Christ by addressing culture's biggest problems and questions from a biblical perspective. We want to let the gospel be a voice within culture in order to transform culture into kingdom culture. Today, I am so excited to be able to sit down with someone who's been awesome and a really important person in my life. She's a member of the church that I work with and that I go to and attend. She's incredibly gifted. She's always been involved in ministry and just people who really inspire me. She's one of those people that inspire me to be more like Jesus. She's an author of a book called Written in the Past, Seeing God Throughout History. And so I'm excited for you to be able to hear some of her story, hear about the book, and just hear from her and what she has to share. I know she's going to be a blessing. So I'm excited for this episode. Jane Creedon, thank you for joining us today. It is awesome that we are able to sit here and talk about this book and talk about your life and just who you are and what God's been doing in your life. So, I've known you as long as I can remember. Since I've been a kid, I've known you, you and your sister, and just it's incredible, really, how much you've shown and revealed Jesus to me in my life. So I'm excited for today that maybe those watching this episode might just get a glimpse or a sneak peek into what I've gotten to enjoy for much of my life. And so for those who are watching this that don't know Janie, right, because they're not as privileged as I am, tell, and this, I know this is hard for you because you're such a humble person, but tell us about yourself. Who is Jane Creedon?
Well, sometimes I don't know either, so that's okay. No, I was born here in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I went to school here. My family is from this area, and I was always taken to church all my life, so it didn't occur to me to not be a Christian. And then I think I was about 10 when I was baptized, and I learned. I went to camp, and had classes and youth group activities and all that. So I've just always been associated with Christians, but with other people too. And I love history. Some people, I just took to it right away when I was a child.
Yep.
But my father always loved it. And so I think it's probably my DNA.
Yeah.
Much as anything.
And I even forgot to mention that you're a museum curator with Dobbs Park here in Terre Haute, Indiana. You've really worked with the Parks Department for how long?
Since 98.
Since 98. That's over 20, that's almost 30 years of service here in the Parks Department. So yes, you've been a Christian for as long as you can remember, since a young child, but you're not just a Christian, you're a Christian who loves history, and you've been involved with history for a long time, with your career, with your personal interests. I mean, was it always something that interested you as a child and growing up, or was it something that you kind of grew into more into your adult life?
I don't remember not liking it. It was just always interesting to me, and we would go to movies about things that had happened in the past, and what I always liked was trying to put myself in the position of the characters. How would I do? And then my family would tell me stories of things that happened years ago. And so it was a natural fit for me.
Yeah. And so would you say that growing up, your natural love for history, has that shaped your view of God? Has it shaped your walk with God? And how has it really shaped your faith? How has your faith and your love for history, how have they gotten along throughout your life?
Well, again, you grow and change. And actually in college, I majored in political science because I thought I could have a better chance at getting a job there than history. So, but I loved it too. It was a neat thing to study. But I think it's whatever your talents and interests are, that's kind of how you approach God. It's like a person who's very musical, doesn't remember not singing.
Yeah.
That's how they do. And so when you put God in there, you've got to put your passion right up there with God, and it will work its way some way.
Yeah.
If you don't, or people who are very scientifically inclined, and they make great apologists.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's almost like God is your purpose, and your love for history, your passion for history is a vehicle or a means to help know God better, make God known more. So you're fulfilling your purpose through a passion in which you've brought to God and said, God, I want I want my passion for this to be oriented towards you, and I want you to be a part of this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really, really good. I love that. What made you decide to write this book? Is this your first book that you've written?
Yes, I've written. Obviously, when I was in school, I wrote a lot. I started writing these articles a couple of years ago and had an opportunity to help teach classes at House of Hope, which is for adults who are recovering from various problems. And so I thought, well, that might be kind of an interesting hook to get people interested, teaching them a little bit about secular history and then applying it to some biblical principle.
Yeah.
And the person who really encouraged me was our mutual friend, Coy Siddall.
Yeah,
I would
Coy.
send him articles and he would tell me he liked something or. So that was helpful. And then I had so many, I thought maybe there's a book in there. And as I recall, I asked Coy, he said, oh, absolutely. So then that's when I started pursuing the idea of a book.
Yeah. So we've had Terry on from House of Hope, Terry Ribley, and that's a ministry we've highlighted here on the podcast before. How long ago was that you were writing articles for House of Hope that you were sharing? Because if you were sharing with Coy, how long ago was that? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
No, about 2 years.
2 years ago, so it was very recently.
Yeah, I had written things before, and then finally, House of Hope. I thought, I think I can do this, and my take is a little different from other folks, but that's fine. We can all kind of blend together and be a blessing to those folks. And then when I got real serious about that, I thought, well, okay, then this is what I'm going to do.
So God put that on your heart just a couple of years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. You had been writing a lot of, and the book is a lot of short stories. That's what I love about it is you can read this book. It's not a book that you have to read all the way through in one setting. You could open it up to really any given place, and you'll see a different part of who God is through the story that you're reading, and it's very digestible. So you had been working on some of these stories. You'd written some of them before, but you were working on them for the House of Hope and sharing them with our mutual friend Coy, and just getting his input on that. And I am so glad that Coy, and it makes sense that he would say it, but I'm glad that Coy told you, yes, this would make a good book, because it certainly is fascinating. Every story, no matter who it is or what time and place it is or what it's about, the wide range of stories, yet God is in all of it. So, what does it mean? Like the title of the book, what does it mean to see God through history?
Well, when Paul's writing that particular verse in Romans, he's talking about things from the Old Testament. And these things were written in the past in order to educate us, to help us to understand God and his will for us.
Yeah.
So that's why I think if we could look at the past and see how things work out, and sometimes they work out well, sometimes they don't, but God is always God. He's always in control. And it's very easy when times are hard. I know I've had this experience, and others have too. You think, I don't think God really cares too much about me. I'm not very important, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you look at, especially in the Bible, some of the most humble people that God uses. Jesus is born in a stable, So his view is different from ours. And we need to try to pull ourselves back and think, I need to look at myself, my life, others, the way God looks at them. And that's hard to do when you have a conflict with somebody.
Wow. So what you just highlighted is fascinating. And to see God through history, you're talking about what I believe to be like Romans 15:4, about how the things were written in the past, but for us, right? And what you highlighted, though, is that when you see who God is in those times in history, what you're then equipped to do is see your own story and see history rather through your own lenses, through the lenses of God. So seeing God in history enables us to see the world and to see history more clearly and to see it truthfully about what really is going on behind the scenes, even if we can't access that from our perspective. It gives us a better perspective.
Well, it does. And we have to, again, a lot of the Christian life doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. And again, you look, God sends the King of the universe to be born in a barn. Well, okay. Were you born in a barn? Yes, I actually was.
What a paradox.
Jesus could say, but it's all that sort of stuff doesn't make sense. If you look at the DNA of Jesus, the human ancestry, I don't know that I'd want to put some of those people in my family tree, to be really truthful.
Yes, embarrassing DNA.
Embarrassing. Some of these people, you think, ew. But at any rate, God can use them. And I think today, we have to be very careful. There are a lot of good people, but they're not necessarily people God is using. If you think about various, different parts of life, the world, and you say this person was very successful at something, and then you look, well, he wasn't maybe the nicest person around. I was thinking about doing something on Albert Einstein. He was quite the womanizer.
Yeah. Interesting man.
He wasn't anything to look at, but his intellect and eventually his fame, of course, drew women in. And yet he was a great physicist.
Yes.
So I have to give him credit for that. And God can take care of the rest of it.
Yeah.
And we tend to do that. I think with people, we expect somebody's good at something, therefore he is perfect.
And if someone's bad, therefore. Yeah, so what you're highlighting is just because someone's a good person morally doesn't necessarily mean that they have God in them and that that God's with them or for them and for their cause. But just because someone's a bad person morally, like in the case of a womanizer or Albert Einstein, God can still be seen through their life. And it's not necessarily because of the person, it's because of who God is. It's all about who God is. God can reveal himself through the good and the bad, and that's what he does. That is fascinating. That's very good.
One of my favorite characters in history is Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah.
This poor man was a total loser, basically. He couldn't get anything right.
I love how you put that in the same sentence. My favorite person in history, and then a total loser. Yeah.
He was. He couldn't operate a business. He drank too much. He had a loyal wife, and apparently his kids were good. But other than that, he just didn't do anything except one thing: he could make war. And he did that better than anybody.
What a guy. Could make war.
And because of Grant, even in spite of his faults, somebody complained to Lincoln he drank too much. He says, well, I can't spare him. He fights. So
that's what Lincoln said?
Yeah.
Wow. I can't spare him. He's a good, I need him. So it's like, wow.
So Lincoln had the ability to see beyond these things and to see the talents there. Robert E. Lee, on the other hand, was probably more the kind of guy you'd want for your daughter to marry. He was a good man, a good upstanding man. But the cause that he fought for, maybe that's not one that we would want our family members to.
So someone fighting for, to maintain slaves might have been morally on a day-to-day basis a better person to be around, behaviorally. Not as many vices, more clean cut, might have treated you even better. And yet, Grant, not the nicest guy, probably didn't want to be around him, probably wasn't good to be in the home with him. And yet Lincoln and those around him understood, hey, he's necessary because we have a cause. And so it's like, that's what we see all throughout history. I think ultimately at the cross is where we see God do exactly that. Like the evil sin of mankind to kill Jesus, to put him on the cross and kill him, horrifyingly kill him. And yet God oriented that for a cause that brought salvation and the ultimate good. That's why we call Good Friday good, even though it was really a terrible day. That's the beauty of God in history. God is always good, even in the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He uses people who are so unlikely. Grant's good friend, General Sherman, we would say he was bipolar today. He had a lot of problems, and he once said, I stood with Grant when he was drunk, and he stuck with me when I was crazy.
Yeah.
But again, a brilliant general.
Yeah.
God used him. Winston Churchill had a terrible problem with depression, so did Martin Luther King. Very, very depressed people at times, but they could rise above that and do things that the rest of us probably couldn't or wouldn't think to do.
What's fascinating is it seems like when we look at people throughout history, we see the good and the bad and the in-between, And yet we see God consistently in all of it and how he's using both. How do you think that challenges or should challenge the Christian to see people and how we see people?
Well, again, it all depends on the individual, but we need, and I don't think you should necessarily be somebody who always thinks everybody is good, because there are people who are not good people.
Yes.
And we need to keep an eye on that. But at the same time, it's good to look at them and maybe see the potential they have. Get to know them and see some talent or some skill. And you think, if you could develop that, think of what the good things you could do for the cause of Christ.
Yeah. So you're saying we need to maintain an objective moral good and evil, and yet people are nuanced and complex.
Yeah.
And even though they might be an evil person, there's attributes about them that are God-given, that were created in them by God and can and should be oriented for God and for good. I think that's absolutely fascinating. How would you say studying history has deepened your trust in God?
Well, I think part of it is just that things do work out. They might not be something I can see in this lifetime, but that's where faith comes in. At some point, things will work out well. But you think about bad things that happen all the time, and yet something good can come of it. One thing I think you're talking about people that are not good people. I was interested in the 1936 Olympics. That's where Jesse Owens and Ralph Metcalf came to fame, and that was a big problem for Hitler with his...
For our young viewers, explain that.
Yes. That was the Summer Olympics in 1936 were held in Berlin, and the Nazis made a big to-do about it. And, of course, they had the theory that people who were not white, not Aryans, were inferior. And then these African Americans come along and blow everybody out of the water, basically. So that kind of, okay. But any rate, though, there was one time there were some German girls, and Hitler, of course, had put a lot of pressure on his athletes to compete well because their philosophy depended upon it.
Win or be killed.
Yeah. So these girls were running in a relay race, and one of them dropped the baton. Well, that's embarrassing. It's upsetting. But think about if your boss, Adolf Hitler, is sitting there.
Yeah.
So I was interested in what happened. So I looked these people up, and they went up to the Fuhrer after the race, and he just said, well, that's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. He wasn't mad at them. And that fascinated me. He could turn off that evil, and he was kind to them, and he could be kind. The problem with someone like Hitler is he chooses not to be. He chooses not to have a Christian worldview, but rather a kind of a dog-eat-dog mentality the Nazis had.
Darwinian, just kind of like, we're survival of the fittest.
Exactly. So that is interesting. And I think it helps me. I like to see people in different shades, not just all black and white.
Yes.
So you have some people Schindler's List. There's a girl in Schindler's List that this Nazi guard is a really awful person, but she's a Jewish girl and she works for him, and he's nice to her. Why is he nice to her? Who knows? So there was some capability in that guy, I can't remember his name, of being kind, but he chose not to be kind to everybody else except that one poor girl.
Wow. And so this idea that God in history is constantly revealing himself to try to give us a picture of who he is, and he's willing to do that through not so good people.
Right, yeah.
Or even the exemplary ones. In all of that, what do you think God is trying to reveal the most? I think we see a lot of attributes of God, but what is God? What is the driving picture that he wants to embed in the minds of humanity throughout history by revealing himself in the way that he has?
Well, that's a good question. I think one thing is God wants us to know who he is and how much he loves us, and that he is the one we should always turn to. Often we don't, and things usually don't work out well when we don't turn to him. But we need to remember he is the creator, and he is the one who ultimately has everybody's good in mind. And it grieves him when people turn away from him, like some of these people we've mentioned.
Yeah.
That makes him feel very sad.
Yeah.
And of course he becomes angry when they hurt others, but there's a sense where and we can disappoint him too. Maybe not in the way of a mass murderer, but certainly I let him down when I sin, or when I, I've had doubts at times because everybody does.
Yeah.
And that's part of life. And when I just kind of give up, he doesn't want me to do that. He wants me to keep on trying. And if you look at various people throughout history, that's what they do. They keep trying. And that's what he wants. He doesn't ask for me to be perfect because I can't be. None of us can. But if we can at least try to get close to him.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that out of all the things he's revealing about himself, what he's mainly revealing is his want for us, his want for a relationship with us, which shows his intent, his heart, his motive, and it's a loving, good-willed motive. It's for our good. Like he's not here to smite us or harm us. Like Jesus, when he says, I'm not coming to the world to condemn the world, but to save the world. And so, it would benefit us to see and look for God more in history, because the more we know him, the more we know that he wants us, and the closer we get to him. So history is a very effective tool for the Christian to draw closer to God. So we should all develop a love for history in a sense. How do you think Christians, if they struggle in this area of history, how can Christians begin to better see God in history? How can we approach history better?
Well, one thing I think you can do is talk to people. Everybody knows somebody who's of an older generation, and ask them, what was it like to go through this or that, or how did you feel? And then you think, put yourself in that person's place. Well, how would I feel, and what would I do? And maybe how you've seen changes for the good and bad, because there are changes. The world's a lot different from, say, it was 20 years ago even, So that's one thing. And then I think another, Bible has fascinating stories of people who were in some very strange situations, and yet they managed to come through. And just find something about history that's interesting to you and read up on that. You don't have to be an expert on world history, but if perhaps you're interested in some country or some group of people, start on that.
Yeah. So start where you're interested. I like how you focused in on relational, story-driven history. Like it makes sense that you love history in that way because you're a lover of people. You love people. You love people's stories. And so you can fall in love with history through your love of the people you're in relationship with. And so hearing their stories, hearing how God has shown up in their life and what they're learning about God through their story. That's absolutely. And you're mentioning really getting into the Bible, looking at the Bible, not just as a fairy tale, but as a book of history. There's so much history in the Bible. It's not just something that's for law and rule. It really is real people in real time with a real God walking with him. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you too, before we wrap up this episode, is how should people view God in light of the history of human suffering? I think people have a hard time in their view of God when they look at the history of suffering. And being a historian, being someone in this book, there's a lot of suffering. There's the first page, it literally about the first story includes sacrifice, a man sacrificing his own life for even his enemies, for people who weren't they're suffering. How would you encourage someone to view God in light of the history of human suffering?
That's one of the key problems. If you can come to terms with why good people suffer, why do bad things happen to good people? If you could come to terms with that, and it's really hard to do, it takes a long time in some cases, then I think you've got a chance at a close relationship with God, not to worry so much about the injustices. And again, the Bible is a good teacher of that, because there are good people in the Bible who suffer. It's not a story of always things turning out right for people. There are good people in the Bible, well, obviously Jesus, but there are others as Stephen, think of the early Christian martyrs. And I think, but a lot of prayer I would recommend, because sometimes you're going through a rough time and you just, why God? Why did this happen? Try to keep praying with him. Talk to other people who can encourage you. What I would suggest you not do is just, oh, well, I'll just forget about it, because that doesn't happen. When you're unhappy and hurting and there's something going on, eventually it will come back to you. But reading about other people in the past and how they have dealt with problems too is another thing you can do.
Yeah. I love how when you look at the Bible, you see that it's not some whitewashed account, but there's real people who are really suffering, and you get to see how God shows up in their suffering and how he brings healing or transformation or salvation or goodness from suffering. And so that can give us hope in our suffering, or God's justice in the Bible. That gives me hope for the history of suffering, knowing that God won't turn a blind eye to any of the historical suffering that's taken place in this world, that it will be adequately answered to, and that I can trust that. That helps me tremendously.
It does, and it might happen long after I'm dead. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I have to let go and just let God, trust him. But again, it takes a long time to get there for a lot of us, because life can be pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one historical example that you think of or that comes to mind, that when it comes to mind or when you think of it, there's no way around the possibility of God being at work, or a story in history that just blows you away? Maybe one of them out of your book. Is there one where you just see God the most in that story in history?
One of my favorite stories, and it's difficult to describe it, but Charles de Gaulle was not always on good terms with the United States and Britain. He was the French leader during and after World War II. But the thing about de Gaulle was he always seemed rather distant, rather unapproachable. The thing about him, though, was if you look at him from his family's point of view, he and his wife had 2 children, then they had a little daughter who had Down syndrome. And in those days, back in the 1920s, they tended to put children like that away. I mean, he'll never have much of a life. She doesn't amount to anything. Just keep her comfortable. And
I mean, even in our own culture today,
we do that today as well.
we see the same thing.
And yet, de Gaulle, and all the burdens he had with the Depression, the war, all the politics after the war, every day he found time to play with his daughter. And he said, she would be a burden to many people, but to me she is a blessing, because she's so pure and innocent in her love for me. And he was himself a very religious man, and that kind of makes you think of that purity of the love Jesus has for us. Jesus, he knew about people who kind of had angles, because de Gaulle in politics and in the military, you just get people out for themselves.
Yeah.
That's part of it. Jesus, of course, had close associates who maybe were not as loyal to him, especially Judas, but the others weren't always quite as loyal as they could have been, and he would be disappointed with them. But he kept loving them anyway. And then eventually, of course, it worked out. But I find that an interesting story, that this man who had all these burdens took the time to play with this little daughter, because she would just giggle and she would be so sweet and loving, and all of the other burdens that he had kind of faded into the background when he was with his little daughter, Anne.
Wow.
And that's just a touching story.
And
really.
that's how much is Jesus in that? Like Jesus is in that little girl.
Yeah.
Her love for her father, despite whatever flaws
Yeah.
he has, she just loves her dad.
He's daddy, and that's all she cares about.
Wow. And I think it's amazing that in this book, all the different stories, or anytime I hear you talk about a story like that, the idea that God has always been at work since the beginning of time. He's never ceased to be actively trying to reach us, to reach you and I, through even the stories that no one might even know about, through stories that no one might even hear. Man, this is fun.
Well, or again, these people who perform such acts of selflessness, like Charles Abril, 19-year-old kid who throws himself on a machine gun nest,
Yep.
to save his comrades. 19, who would do that? And it's just interesting characteristics and qualities people have that they probably don't know they have until some crisis comes along.
Wow. God seen through all of history, through all different types of people, because his fingerprint is on each of them. And it really elevates how we view people. It elevates our love for people. It should. Elevates our love for God because we see him more clearly. It elevates our trust. We can trust him in our own story, right? When we go through things. If someone's watching this, and this is really what I want to close on. If someone's watching this and they feel discouraged or possibly even depressed or down, overwhelmed, close to giving up, what story from history would you point them to and why?
I think that's an excellent question because there is a lot out there of people who didn't give up. Again, I think part of it, somebody like General Grant comes to mind. He had been told over and over, he's a drunk, he'll never amount to anything. And he would been, passed around from base to base basically because he drank too much. And yet, when the time came, he never hesitated to act. He said, when the war started, he said, okay, I'm going back to the Army. It's what I know. He did, and every single time he had confidence that what he was doing was the right thing. A lot of times we don't have confidence. We second guess ourselves. And he didn't do that. He would say, this is what you need to do. Do this, do this, do this. And somebody said he had kind of like a middle of the night courage where he could be awakened in the middle of the night and, okay, this is happening. All right, this is what we do, da-da-da. And that's a kind of a rare quality in itself. But I always like him for that reason because he just, deep down, he knew he could do it, and he did it.
If I like how we opened the episode with him, just a complete failure.
Oh, totally.
If a total failure like him can ultimately be used by God for something as great as, use that to help liberate slaves. People, a huge portion in history. It reminds me of like Moses, how Moses probably felt similar. I'm a complete failure. I left Egypt. I killed a guy. I'm just a shepherd guy in Midian now. And, I don't even have eloquent speech. I don't talk right. Who am I, God?
Yeah.
And yet he goes into Egypt. He tells Pharaoh exactly what God tells him. And he works with God and walks with God to free Egypt. To free Israel from Egypt. And in all of that, God is revealing himself through Moses and through his leadership and through his courage. So if someone is watching this, they don't have to be discouraged.
Right. And I know that's hard because I've been discouraged at times in my own life. You just have to keep going and take it a day at a time. That's an old grandma kind of advice. My grandma's saying that, but it's true. Don't worry so much about 5 years from now. Just get through today, but keep the faith.
Yeah, absolutely. It's from Romans 15:4, right? Though that which was written of times past, but for us. Is there anything else that you would like to let people know about the book, or where can they get this?
You can order it through Westbow Press, which is the publisher. You can also order it on Amazon. I'm working with some more things as far as promotions are concerned, but those are the mains. Kindle has it.
Okay, yeah.
Thrift Books. There's several places where you can get it online. And I hope it's a blessing and it kind of makes people get some ideas about their own lives.
I think it's actually better to read it instead of all the way through. Read it almost like a daily reading, and just letting God drop nuggets to you. I've enjoyed it like that. I have a Kindle version of it. So pretty much every major platform where people can buy books, you could Amazon, Kindle, Thrift Books, Westbow Press. Yeah. That's the publisher. You could buy it from them as well. Is there any way that people can reach you right now?
They could always email me
Yeah.
if they would like.
Is that something you want to put out there? Do you want us to put it in the description of this episode?
Yeah, if you would, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll drop that. We'll drop her email in the description of this episode so that if you want to contact her, if you want to ask her questions, if you want to just talk to her more about her book. Jane is super personable person. I think you're awesome. If someone emailed you, you would get back to them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to. Or you could even call me on my cell phone.
Yeah.
So you can give them that number
Yeah,
too.
I don't know if I'll put the email. If I put the number out there, you might get some weird people on YouTube trying to call you. I don't want any spam calls, but we'll put your email in the description. People can email you, get a hold of you. That keep an eye out for Jane Creedon on Facebook. We're gonna try to get a page up for her really soon. Get that rolling. But yeah, Amazon. Please get the book. It's an excellent book.
Thank you.
It's encouraging. And do you have any plans for a future book?
Actually, I do. I kind of backed into a contract for another book.
You're in contract for another book, so there is another book.
So I've got some more articles I'm writing. And also what we're going to do with this one is make it kind of like a study guide. Like you have the article, then you have some questions.
Give it some guidance on the reflective
Right.
part after the reading. Yeah,
and then they
really
can
good.
Come to whatever conclusion they do.
Excellent. So you'll be able to get, written in the past, seeing God throughout history, and then probably like a devotional version of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. That's really awesome. Yeah. Again, we're going to put your contact information in the description. We'll put the link to the book on all the different platforms in the description. And the episode itself is going to have a brief advertisement pause where we'll highlight the book and encourage people to read it. But this has been an encouragement to me. I wish people could know you on a week-to-week basis like I get the blessing to. You're wonderful, Jane. Thank you so much for the blessing you are in my life. You've certainly God has revealed himself to me through you in a lot of ways. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love you, sister.
I love you.
If you're watching this episode, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Believe it or not, most people who watch our videos are not subscribed to the channel. But thank you for watching. Please pick up a copy of Written in the Past, Seeing God Throughout History. It's worth the read. It's encouraging. And remember, God is in your story. Wherever you're at in your life, in your own history, God is trying to reveal himself to you. So keep an eye out for him. You might just see him. If you have any questions, please contact us, reach out. If you're looking for a home church to get involved with, Eastside Church of Christ in Terre Haute, Indiana, we'd love to welcome you and connect with you. We're open arms. Until next time, God bless.